be allowed to sit beyond 7:30 to continue the business of the House.
The question is that the time being 7:20, the House be allowed to sit beyond 7:30 to complete the business of the day. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So there are some questions that we have. There are some questions, quite frankly, that we have been asking for a number of years that are still not answered. I guess at this point it is unimportant what are some of the costs. We have been asking for those and we have not been able to get it. Obviously, we don't have the authority to ask for that kind of information and get it. We have been talking about, can I tell you, we always ask, is the government really serious about fighting crime? And I am certainly one of those who would believe that every single member inside this House must have that at the forefront of everything they do. They must. But there are some things that puzzle me. There are some things that lead others to ask some questions, and quite frankly makes it difficult for us, some of us, me included, to answer about where we are going as a government, how consistent the government is, and how serious the government is. So, for example, we have been using over the last couple of months the breakdown of serious and violent crime statistics published by the JCF. And when I look at the one that was published for the end of April, I think it was, April 27th it was. I am clearing my head because it's there and it is obvious, for example, that in St. Andrew South, there has been a 25% reduction without a state of emergency of murders. Granted, it still is far too high. It's far too high because with a 25% reduction, St. Andrew South is still the third highest with Clarendon, the third highest in terms of murders. In fact, it is St. Catherine South and Westmoreland that are number 1 and 2. In terms of shootings, it is St. Catherine South that is number 1, and then it is St. Andrew South that is number 2 in terms of shootings, even ahead of Westmoreland. And so the question that I have been asking and that I am forced again to ask today, and which I think is part of what the member from Central Manchester was talking about, is how do we, coming now to make a decision, where is the data that really helps us to say this is the reason why St. James, Westmoreland, and Hanover have been chosen, and those are the reasons why a St. Andrew South, for example, or a St. Catherine South have not been included. That data is nowhere. Mr. Prime Minister, the easiest, data is always important. The easiest one for us to really look at and to help give us a sense of transparency and a sense of understanding what's happening and following the decisions being made would be the regular reports by the JCF. So the truth of the matter is, when I'm looking at the report and I'm looking at the percentage, whether it's increased or whether it has fallen, and the number of murders, I am not going to be looking at that and then comparing it to the number of murders per 100,000. Because when you compare those two data, I don't have the ability to do the conversion to ensure that how you have ranked for priority makes sense. And so That's not what I'm doing. I'm simply looking at the reports that the police have put out that we have access to that will help us to understand what's happening there. And again, I don't understand why St. Catherine South is not being considered. I don't understand how St. Andrew South is not being looked at. I don't understand how Clarendon is not being looked at. And the truth of the matter is that we live in a low trust environment. We live in an environment where we heard a report about the shootings at Chedwin Park. And there has been a lot of speculation about what that implies. We heard allegations of cover-up. We heard the minister come out and make a declaration about what he is going to do to Mobile Reserve.
Having spoken the week before, can you imagine?
Well, no, having spoken in the sectoral debate with no indication that this was something that was concerning. Why do I raise it? And why do I raise it now? I raise it because it is important to have an understanding as to whether or not the minister was in fact communicating a decision made by the security forces or he was directing the security forces. These things are important because it goes to the heart of the democracy and the separation of powers that we believe in. And if in fact it...
Stop speaking.
Go ahead, Dr. Burke. You're addressing
I can't even hear myself, Mr. Bishop.
You are addressing the speaker, not them.
And I am being distracted, so I would appreciate it if you could control the House.
Order, please. Do not disturb this. Do not disturb the speaker.
So, Mr. Speaker, I raise the issues concerning the decision-making process, the communication of decisions, because it's important to democracy. We have been told from time to time and reminded from time to time that the minister is not responsible for operations. And what that means is that every time that the government speaks, we would want to be able to rely on the fact that they are acting in accordance with that understanding. Because to do otherwise threatens the democracy of our country and is a threat that we cannot ignore. Then I go further. If the government is serious about crime fighting, if they are serious that here we have X number, I don't know what the number is that we have identified, are the police divisions that are the outliers, that are much higher than the national average, and so they require targeted, specific, coordinated, consistent action. Then the question is, how do we decide to take 2, 3 here and leave 3 there? Because the truth is, those decisions actually determine who lives and who dies. So as the Member of Parliament for Southwest St. Andrew, I come in here to defend the lives of the individuals in Southwest St. Andrew. And quite frankly, that is the only reason why I am going to vote with the majority for these measures. Because I am not convinced that the government will do any of what we are asking in terms of ensuring that there is a proper coordinated plan that we can rely on. We have asked the questions, we have asked for it, and we have seen no indication. Let me go further and tell you why I do not believe that there is any thinking on that side to do it. Recently, we have all been saying, for example, that the good thing about the Zozo is that there are some boots on the ground. There is the power and the authority to cordon, to search, to detain, and access to the court, which is important. But we have also said that the Zozo allows for some social intervention that we think necessary. And so I've been asking myself, we got a letter the other day from the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation that says that the government is going to recruit 14,500 youngsters for a summer employment program. Very good. Each member of parliament has been asked to recommend 30 individuals. That's less than 2,000 of the 14,500. So there would then be 12,500 spaces at the very least. So one would have thought that there are some areas where we have noted that the antisocial behavior is particularly high, and that one of the things we would want to do would be to provide greater opportunities for employment and for training. So logically, you would have expected that there would have been a directive to in some of those areas for an increased amount. But that is not so. Because it is not so, I must therefore ask the question, why isn't that so? Is it that government is not talking to one another? Is it that when cabinet sits down, they don't say, listen, we cannot afford, this is what we were told before, to have Zozo in all these areas. But where there are programs, social interventions funded by government, let us ensure that the increased opportunity is provided to these areas. Why can't that be done? Why can't that be done? Or is it that all we want is for individuals to come here, then Town will come and say, oh, $171 million spent in my constituency. We would all want to have that. We are told that resources are scarce. What then is the government doing to ensure that every single area that has been identified as a hotspot, as areas that lie outside of the norm, that we are channeling the requisite resources to begin to deal with some of the issues? And it is the same, I spoke about the employment opportunities, the same goes for water, the same goes for electricity, street lights, the same goes for all of these things that when you look at the Zozo report, you find those things included. If there are programs that are designed and implemented by government, why don't we see them being implemented in accordance with the priorities that we have just spoken about? I'm concerned about that. I would like to see in the next 90 days some attention being given to all of these communities, issues like group therapy. When we have these heinous murders, where is the support for the community? Where is the support at school? If it involves school and there are school children involved, at school there are guidance counselors. And the Ministry of Education comes into the school. But these individuals live in a community, and often the community is just as affected as each other. Absolutely. Where is the group therapy for that? Where is it that we are looking to see how we treat these communities to lessen the trauma of individuals who live in these communities so they do not grow to become themselves violence producers? Where is that? Where are the resources that we are providing? I am indeed concerned about the absence of that, and in the face of that, although I am placing my support because I would not want the government to say that they were unable to do what they had planned because they did not have enough support in the House today. With that though, I
Talk as long as you want.
wanted to suggest to the Prime Minister.
Yep. We have yourself now. Quiet down. Yep.
I wanted to make a suggestion to the Prime Minister.
Yep.
Sir, often your words in the House during the debates seem appropriate. The individuals on your team in the House often make sotto-voce comments loud enough for all of us to hear that belie what you say. So if you say that you believe that there needs to be, this is a matter that requires national consensus, that it is something that is so important we shouldn't play politics with it, you have to tell your members that. You have to get them when they come in here to behave as if they believe